The call came on a quiet morning, the kind that felt too peaceful to break. Daniel had just poured coffee for his 78-year-old father when the silence shattered. A sharp knock echoed through the house. Before he could react, two uniformed officers were already stepping inside. This video will reveal the shocking moment when one small misunderstanding spiraled into something no one expected, and how it all turned back within minutes. His father, George, stood slowly, leaning on his cane, confused but calm. He had lived in that house for over 40 years. Every corner held memories. But today, strangers were treating him like he didn't belong. The officers spoke politely, but firmly. Someone had reported a disturbance. Someone claimed an elderly man was causing issues in the neighborhood. Daniel's heart tightened. He knew exactly who had made that call. Across the street, behind perfectly trimmed hedges, stood a woman watching from her window. The HOA president. The one who had been complaining for months, and this time, she had gone too far. As the officers began asking questions, Daniel realized something didn't feel right at all. And this was only the beginning. The officers asked simple questions, but the situation felt heavy. George answered slowly, his voice steady but tired. He explained he had done nothing wrong. He had only been tending his small garden that morning. Like always, Daniel stood beside him, trying to remain calm, but his eyes kept drifting toward the window across the street. This was the moment everything would unravel, and the truth behind the call would shock everyone involved. The officers exchanged looks. One of them mentioned the complaint again: loud disturbances, unsafe behavior, and concerns about the elderly man's well-being. It didn't make sense. George barely left his yard. He was known as the quietest man on the block. Then Daniel noticed something. One officer hesitated. His tone softened slightly, as if he was starting to doubt the report. Across the street, the HOA president stepped outside, arms crossed, watching closely. She looked confident, almost certain she had done the right thing, but Daniel knew something she didn't, something that would change everything in just a few minutes. And as the questions continued, a quiet tension began building. Like a truth waiting to surface. Daniel took a deep breath and stepped forward. He knew this wasn't just about one call. This had been building for months. The truth behind this conflict was deeper than anyone realized, and once revealed, it would change how everyone saw the situation. He calmly explained the history. The complaints. The warnings. The letters from the HOA about small things that never mattered before. George's garden was too unstructured. His fence didn't match community standards. Even his quiet presence had somehow become a problem. The officers listened carefully now. Their posture changed. Across the street, the HOA president shifted uncomfortably. For the first time, her confidence faded just a little. George looked down at his hands. He had spent decades building a peaceful life here. Now, he was being questioned in his own home. Daniel's voice remained steady, but there was something powerful behind it. He wasn't just defending his father, he was revealing a pattern, and the more he spoke, the clearer it became that this situation wasn't what it seemed. Something wasn't adding up. And the officers were starting to see it too. The atmosphere changed almost instantly. One officer stepped aside and quietly checked something on his device. The other looked back at George, his expression softer now, more understanding. This was the turning point, the moment when everything began to shift in a way no one expected. Daniel noticed it first: the doubt, the hesitation, the realization. Across the street, the HOA president's confident stance slowly turned into unease. She took a step back, as if she could feel control slipping away. The officer returned, nodding slightly. There was no record of any real complaints. No history of disturbances. Nothing that matched the report. Silence filled the space. George looked up. Confused but hopeful, Daniel exhaled slowly, and then the officer spoke. "Sir, it seems there may have been a misunderstanding." But Daniel knew it wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was something else entirely, and in that moment, the focus began to shift, not toward George, but toward the person who made the call. The officers turned toward the street. For the first time, their attention moved away from George and toward the HOA president. This was the moment the truth surfaced, and it was far more revealing than anyone expected. She tried to explain. Her voice, once firm, now carried uncertainty. She spoke about concerns, about maintaining standards, about protecting the neighborhood, but her words didn't hold the same weight anymore. The officers listened, but their expressions remained neutral. Daniel stood quietly, letting the moment unfold. George simply watched. Years of quiet patience had brought him here. And now, without raising his voice, everything was becoming clear. The officer spoke again. Calmly but firmly, "There's no evidence supporting the report." The sentence landed like a turning point. The HOA president's posture shifted completely. The confidence was gone, and in its place, realization. This wasn't going the way she expected, not at all, and for the first time, she understood that her decision had consequences she couldn't control. The street felt different now. What started as tension had turned into quiet clarity. This was the moment she realized her mistake, and it came faster than she ever imagined. The HOA president lowered her gaze. Her voice softened, but the damage had already been done. Daniel didn't say anything. He didn't need to. George stood tall, despite his age, despite everything. There was dignity in his silence. The officers offered a brief apology, acknowledging the confusion. Their tone was respectful now, almost protective. The situation had completely reversed. Neighbors began to notice. Curtains moved. Doors opened slightly. The story was spreading without words, and in that quiet moment, the balance shifted fully. The person who had tried to control everything now stood uncertain. Regret settled in, not loudly, but deeply, and Daniel knew that this moment would stay with her far longer than the call itself. It ended as quietly as it began, but the impact lingered. What started as a simple call had revealed something much bigger and delivered a lesson no one would forget. George returned to his chair, his coffee now cold but untouched. Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder, a silent reassurance. Across the street, the HOA president stepped back inside, no longer watching, no longer certain. The officers left, their presence fading as quickly as it arrived. Peace returned. But it felt different now, stronger, more earned. Daniel looked at his father, realizing something important. Sometimes, the truth doesn't need to be loud. Sometimes, it just needs time, and when it finally comes out, everything changes. And that was the final twist in this unbelievable HOA story. If you loved the drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment sharing your thoughts. It really helps this channel grow.